The sports books released their over-under win totals, and DraftKings has the Knicks penciled in at 52.5 wins. That's the highest projection for the Knicks in 25 years. Obviously, the Knicks, Rohan, got better this summer. They added Mikal Bridges. They'll get Julius Randle back. They surged into that number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference before those injuries caught up with them against Indiana. So Vegas right now thinks that the Knicks are a legit threat to the Boston Celtics. What say you, Rohan?
Legit threat to the Celtics. I don't know that I'm willing to go that far. I really like what the Knicks have done the last couple of years. I mean, first and foremost, it starts with, frankly, now multiple times, they are doing like a small scale version of what the Warriors had with Steph Curry, which is if your best player is on an under market contract, all of a sudden building a team becomes way different. You know, they're paying Jalen Brunson way less than what you pay a player of his caliber. And that's unlocked this whole new route of team building for them. Now he's willing to continue to take a discount. They get a guy like Mikal Bridges, who is already on one of the best contracts in the NBA. Sounds like he might be willing to take a discount moving forward as well. That's helping them a lot. I still don't know how this team is going to come together. Who are their 5 players playing in the last 5 minutes of a fourth quarter? Because Randall's going to want to play. Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson. That's 6 guys right there, and none of them are a center. So I don't understand how Tibbs is going to put the pieces together. Do I think they could be a great regular season team? Yes, because Tom Thibodeau always pushes his guys in the regular season. His Bulls teams always kind of overachieve because of how hard he pushed them. And I think he could get this Knicks team up to 56, 57 wins because of how hard he pushes his guys. And because I think the Eastern Conference, you never know what you're going to get any year. In terms of a legit threat to the Celtics, I still see the Sixers as that team. I still see the Bucks as that team because of the multiple stars that they have. The Knicks, it's funny. I was one of those people that's like, they got to trade Randall, right? Then you look around the league and you're like, to who? For who? I'm curious what you think. I have no idea how they put it all together. Let
me say this. I am a Knicks believer. Mm-hmm. I am a Knicks truther right now. I love the Bridges addition. I think beyond the obvious chemistry fit with, his former, econ classmate guys from Nova, I think it works on the court. You add Bridges to OG Anunoby, Josh Hart. These are big time wing defenders, and to beat the Celtics,
it's the best possible route to beating the Celtics. As many switchable wings as possible.
1,000%. I also think with Boston, you're going to have a sluggish start. Like no Porzingis till at least Christmas. Jason Tatum coming off the Olympics, like the obvious hangover that happens to championship level teams. I can see the Celtics being a middle of the pack conference team into January, right? Mm-hmm. Like doesn't mean they'll be that way in April or May, but I can see them being a very average team into January. The Randall stuff, like I get it. Like there is a Randall dilemma, and I'll get to that in a minute, but the numbers don't really back up this assertion that the Knicks are somehow better without Julius Randle. Like before Randle got hurt back in, January, February, they went 29-17. They were the 8th best record in the league, league-wide. Since that point, after that point, they went 21-15. That was 12th in the NBA. They had a plus 5.6 point differential before Randall went out on January 27th. That was 5th. They allowed about 110 points per game. They averaged 115 points per game. After that, they had a lower point differential. It was plus 3.3. They gave up 106.2 points per game, so their defense was a little bit better. And they averaged 109.5 points per game, so their offense was measurably worse. More importantly, an easier stat to figure out is that they went 12-2 with Randall and OG Anunoby in the lineup. That's not the biggest of sample sizes, but that's a pretty reasonable sample size to look at and say,
that was when they were really taking off, was when as soon as they got Anunoby. Yeah.
Yes. Anunoby gets plugged in. Randall's still there. They've got their largely complete team. I think that's reason to be optimistic that this Randall group can work. I think the Knicks finished with the number 1 record in the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
I think they're going to take off. They're going to take off during the regular season, Rohan. Boston's going to stumble. Philadelphia's going to have a learning curve. I'm not yet ready to believe in Cleveland and Orlando and some of those other teams around them. I think the Knicks have the best record in the East at the end of the season. Now, the Randall stuff, where you have questions is, like, where do you put him positionally? because I do think that your best lineup is going to be Brunson and then the three guys I mentioned, Josh Hart, OG, Mikal Bridges. So whether it's Josh Hart or Bridges, one of those guys is going to play power forward. That means Randall's going to have to be a center. Like, I think Randall has to be maybe not the starting five of this team, but the closing five of this team. I think the loss of Hartenstein is going to hurt. He was a great rebounder, offensive rebounder, really good passer. I think they're going to have to overcome that. They could probably do some of that by plugging Randall into that five spot, using Mitchell Robinson and Randall kind of interchangeable at that position. If Randall accepts and thrives in that five role, this team has a chance. They've got a chance. I still think Boston at full strength is better, but I think chemistry-wise, the whole thing can work because I think Randall as a five, if he comes back as the player we saw last year, 24 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists per game, I think they've got a chance. I think they're the best team in the Eastern Conference during the regular season, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
I do think it would be kind of a Tibbs special to have them number one in the East. As much as I want to make fun of that take, I could see it happening. He just pushes guys. He gets the most out of these teams. He's going to play Brunson big minutes. He's going to play his best players big minutes. I think there's a very solid chance of that happening. The Randall at the five thing is interesting because there was a time in his career where it looked like that was maybe going to be his future. Like when he was in New Orleans and he was kind of like an energy big, run the floor, fast break five. It was a ton of fun to watch. And I loved watching that version of him. Whereas now, he likes to pound the ball, ISO, and look, it's led to a lot of success on NBA selections. Good for Julius Randle, a lot of money. It's just,
but Rowan, they can't win. They cannot win in the playoffs if it is the Jalen Brunson show. Teams are too good defensively.
Yes,
you've got to have diversity of offense, and he offers that.
It can work for a round or two, but you're correct. And the thing is, they need. The issue they've had is he hasn't been an efficient version of Julius Randle in the playoffs. We haven't seen that yet. He struggled in that Atlanta series. That's
putting it kindly. Okay, he has been really bad in the playoffs. That's a fact.
Yes, and so they need a better version of him. It's just funny as you were talking about matching up the Celtics. The real irony is it's there's no better five. I mean, there's no better five for a lot of teams, but if this Knicks team had Porzingis at the five, I think we'd be talking about them like we do Boston. But I just worry that what will it look like with Randall at the five defensively against a team like Boston? Can he hold up? Can he be efficient enough offensively on the other end to make it work? Because I agree, positionally, it's going to be interesting what they decide between Randall, or do you go super small? Do you go super small against a team like Boston, bring in a DiVincenzo or, someone like that off the bench?
Do you even have to go super small against Boston? Boston goes, besides Porzingis, they're playing small anyway.
I agree.
So Tatum is the five, or Brown is the five in these situations.
So could you get away with OG at the five or Mikal at the five and size down?
1,000%.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting. I mean,
Josh Hart played five, some five there. Certainly was playing power forward for most of those minutes.
Yeah. They will definitely have to get creative, and I do think Randall at the five is going to be something that deserves a very long look. And the other irony of all this is, to me, not irony, but factor, I guess, is they have the one coach who I wonder how much leash he's going to be willing to give those lineups, because I think Tibbs, for better or worse, is stuck in his ways, and they've been very successful. I think he's a great coach. I want to point that out. But he's someone who does like to play big, who does like to have size on the floor. How much, kind of leeway is he going to be willing to give those lineups? It's very interesting. I'm fascinated to see how it all works out, but they're a very interesting threat. When you could throw Hart, they have an opportunity to throw Hart, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, and Bridges at the Celtics at the same time. I think that is the best possible 4 perimeter defenders you could have against Boston, really among any team. And that alone makes them very interesting.
The other aspect with Randall is the fact that he's extension eligible right now.
Yes.
He is extension eligible for a contract that can be worth 4 years, around $180 million. Now, I've seen some people out there suggest that, look, he took less money the last time around. He's been a good soldier for this team. He's been a productive member of this team. He's 29 years old. if you got to max him out to keep him, you max him out to keep him. I am completely on the other side of that fence, Rohan, because I think you got to see what he looks like with this new group. And just because you got a little flexibility because Jalen Brunson took a below market offer doesn't mean you go out there and splurge on 4 years, $180 million of Julius Randle. He's got a contract that runs through next season. He's got a player option for the year after that. And if you look at the landscape next summer, there are teams out there with some cap space, but who is spending it on a 30-year-old Julius Randle? Like, is Houston going to use its cap flexibility to go put Randle next to Alperen Sengun? I don't think so. Like, is Detroit going to go out there and sign Julius Randle? Doesn't really fit with what they're trying to do in Detroit. I think his options are going to be limited. So if I'm the Knicks, if I'm Leon Rose, I'm looking at Julius Randle. I'm talking to his agents, and I'm saying, look, we want you, but it's got to be for like a Draymond Green type of deal. It's got to be 4 years, $100 million, the kind of deal that you can take, and even if it's not looking great on the back end, you can trade it. It's not gobbling up a huge amount of space on your books. I think the biggest mistake the Knicks could make right now is giving Julius a contract that pushes him into that $35-40 million per year range. I know that $35-40 million isn't what it used to be, and the cap is going to continue to go up, but that's still a big chunk of change for a guy that has yet to prove he can play at a high level in the playoffs, and B, yet to prove that he can play with this new group of long, defensive-minded wing players that are led officially by Jalen Brunson as the hub of your offense. So I would wait until next summer to do a deal with Julius Randle.
Could not agree with that more. 100% on the money there. They got to wait on Randle. They got to see what happens. DiVincenzo came in on a below market deal. If you want to keep a guy like him, he's going to need more money eventually. Bridges' next deal is going to go up soon.
Yep.
Even if he does take a discount, but they can't afford to, I think, overpay for Randle, even though they, like you mentioned, they have this brief window. They got to see how he looks next to everybody first.